Hello, friends. Today's episode is brought to you by From Within Records. Blistered, Soul Erosion, reissue, the test press, and the red/blue swirl are sold out. White and black still available. So please do yourself a favor. Head over to FromWithinRecords.com. Grab yourself a copy of this anniversary release before it's too late. It's such a cool anniversary. It makes me feel really old. So I was like, damn, another 10-year record, right? There's so many awesome records that are just celebrating 10 years, right? And this is years after the fact where I'm going to, 10 years of Say It Like You Mean It, stuff like that. And I was like, wow, where has the time gone? So for everyone out there, please slow down, enjoy your life, because time flies. And I truly do mean that. But do yourself a favor, go grab yourself a copy of the Soul Erosion reissue before it's too late. And shout out to From Within Records for doing that reissue. I think it's awesome. Much respect. And have you had a chance to subscribe to the From Within Records podcast? They just dropped episode 30. Go boot up your Google Podcast, your Apple Podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts, and please subscribe to the From Within Records podcast. It's a great listen. And if you're not following From Within Records on social media, please go boot up X, go boot up Instagram, click that follow button to stay up to date on all the current news. And like I always say, please support From Within Records because they support us. If you're looking for high quality merch for your band or for your business, please hit up my friends over at Good Fortune Printing out of Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. You can follow them on Instagram at Good Fortune Printing, or if you want to get in contact with them, please email them contact@goodfortuneprinting.com. You can thank me later. Breaking news. I can't speak too much on it, but I will be back in Wilkes-Barre August 24th. That's all I can say for now. Mark your calendars. If you're there, we're going to Circles. We're going to Jeff's house. We're doing a bunch of crazy stuff. So August 24th, I will be back in, honestly, my most favorite place on earth. Because I think about it, right? I love where I live. But when I think about getting on that plane, landing at Avoca, and just breathing in the air, it's just different out there. So I love Wilkes-Barre, and I cannot wait to be back. So August 24th, I will be there. It's going to be fun, and I'm very much looking forward to it too. It's going to be a great way to experience it, because you got to think all the times that I've been there have been in October/November when it's really cold. Really cold for me here in California. So traveling out to Wilkes-Barre during those times, it was something different. But I've always been told, like, yo, you got to come back for the summer. You got to come back for the summer. And we're making it happen. So August 24th, like I said, be there. We're going to Jeff's house. It's going to be crazy. But before we get into today's guests, on the last episode in the intro, we were preparing to get KCON tickets, right? Here's the K-pop segment. We were preparing to get KCON tickets, and we were successful. It was very stressful. I had got pre-sale, which I had never done before, because I'm like, why am I going to pay a pretty penny for a pre-sale code? I'm just going to risk it, right? We're going to just say, fuck it. We're just going to get in line with the general people, and it shouldn't be that bad. But this was back when, because they do their ticketing through Axis. I think that's how you pronounce it, right? Axis, AXS.com, which was better than Ticketmaster, because Ticketmaster, we're dealing with the bots. We got to get in a queue. There's always 20,000 people in front of you. But back in the day with Axis, you could just log right in, grab your ticket, like we're going to a hardcore show, and no problems. But recently, and I experienced this, right? I fell victim to an Axis queue line, which I'd never experienced before. And this was back when I was trying to buy tickets for BBG, and I was just really on the fence. Do I really want to see BBG? I was not like a G Friend stan, but when I took a step back and thought about how awesome BBG is, and I'm like, Unha is going to be in town. I would love to see them in person. The closest I ever got was when they played Vegas, but I didn't make it out. So I was like, fuck it. We're just going to pull the trigger. We're going to go all in. But then morning of, access.com, boom, we're thrown into Q line. I'm like, all right, whatever. This is do or die. Let's go. And unfortunately, that time I'd lost. So I was like, damn, this is terrible. So this year I'm like, all right, NMix, Stacy, and Somi are coming to KCON. I was like, that's more than enough for me to just try to secure the best tickets. So I paid 80. Okay, so check it out. Okay, before I draw the price, I said the first number, but we'll get there. You had to download the Mnet Plus app to be able to have a chance to get a pre-sale code. So I'm like, all right, this is a very brilliant way to get us to download their app to run the numbers up, because before they try to force you to subscribe to their YouTube membership, which I never did. I'm like, I don't want to do that. I'm just going to risk it, like I said. But this year it was just like, I can't risk it. There's too much at stake. So I downloaded the app, and it was an $85 ticket to just get a pre-sale code. I'm like, oh god, $85 for a pre-sale code. This is just to get a chance. And once again, this is to get a chance to get the best KCON ticket. This is no guarantee. So I'm just like, all right, this is kind of pricey. The ticket's already pricey enough. So I'm like, they're gonna charge me $85 to just get into the pre-sale. So I'm like, fuck it. All right. So I'm waiting on the app, and boom, it comes time. The window to buy pre-sale tickets opens, and I'm there. Minute 1, 4:01. I'm there. I get through the shopping cart. They ask me, like, which kind of currency do you want to pay? I choose USD, and I get to the checkout, but I get hit with an error screen through the app, and I'm like, oh shit, an error screen. Like, what the fuck does this mean? And I got an email. Okay, hey, we received your payment. Go back into the app, check my order history. Nothing's in my order history. So I'm stressed. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Reddit, on Instagram. I'm trying to figure out if I'm the only one experiencing this. But luckily, there were so many people in the same boat as me. And I was like, all right, maybe I could just wait it out. Maybe this was just an error in the app, and my purchase did go through, and they'll just email me like they're supposed to. And like an hour passes. Still no update, still no pre-sale code, nothing. And now I'm seeing on Twitter, people are like saying, okay, we just had to buy it again for it to work. So I don't want to be stuck in a place where I didn't buy it again and actually get a confirmation and end up missing out on the pre-sale, and then eventually missing out on the actual tickets. So I was like, oh, all right, here we go again. So about an hour later, people are still having trouble with the app, by the way. Like, nothing ran smooth. About an hour later, I go back into the app, and somehow I managed to get through the error, because there was an initial error just trying to get to the ticket page for the pre-sale code. So got in again, bought it again. So I spent another $85, and this time everything went smooth. Showed up in my order history, and then got the pre-sale code. And then about an hour after that, I got another email. Hey, here's your first pre-sale code. And I'm like, okay, now I have 2 pre-sale codes. But luckily, you're only allowed one. It was 1 pre-sale code per account. So since I got through because of the error, since I got through twice because of the error the first time, they refunded me. And I managed to get my pre-sale code. And okay, I was like, all right, cool. Step 1 down, we got the pre-sale code, but like I said, this doesn't guarantee any tickets. This is just for a small advantage. And luckily, day of 4 tickets, I enter my pre-sale code, and I was so nervous because I entered my pre-sale code, and I thought it would be just like the old days, right? You got your pre-sale code, boom, you're in right away. But no, enter my pre-sale code, and once again, I'm in a queue and I'm just like, oh shit, I got swindled. I was so stressed, but luckily I was in the queue for a very short time and I was able to purchase my KCON premium tickets. And if I'm being honest, I paid a lot of money and I'm very happy that I'm able to get to see NMIX, Stacy, and Somi. But the lineup this year was so weak. I don't want to say whack because there are artists that I'm just not into. I don't think they make bad music, but there's also artists that are playing that I just think they make great music, but I just don't have time to stand them because there's not enough time to stand every group. But when I put 2024's lineup against 2023, which 2023 wasn't even my favorite lineup, it doesn't stack up. But since going to KCON, I feel like my first year was the best year. But even in 2024, I feel like we get gypped on the lineup because KCON's like a worldwide event, right? They just did KCON Japan. That was the last KCON before USA. And then they're going to Saudi Arabia next. And then after Saudi Arabia, I think it's KCON Europe. But the international KCONs literally get way better lineups. I'm not sure if it's because scheduling or money, or I don't know what it is. But if you think about how insane the K-pop stands in America are, you'd figure we'd get the best lineup because for anyone who's not aware, yeah, K-pop comes from South Korea, but K-pop is way more popular outside of South Korea than it is, back at home. Like I've talked to like native, people from South Korea, and I'm like, yo, do you know who Weekly is? And like, no. Okay, so let me go for a little more popular. Do you know who Stacy is? No. Okay. Do you know who aespa is? Yes. Okay. All right. We're getting somewhere. But yeah, it's not as popular in South Korea as it is in a lot of other places, but especially here in America. It's crazy. But I just wonder why this year was so weak. And obviously, like, I do understand, like, okay, if we start at like big groups, right? BTS, obviously, the majority of them are still in the military, right? The mandatory service. So that would be insane for them to come back to KCON. I don't know if they ever will. But then you move down to Twice, right? Twice has already said, yo, we're only having this one appearance in the US in 2024. So they're crossed off the list. Then we go down to Blackpink. Okay, they're in a place that they've never been before, right? Because the girls individually didn't re-sign, but they did re-sign to their label as, for group activities. So I don't even know what the fuck that means. But so Blackpink probably out of the question, right? Well, obviously they were out of the question because they're not on lineup. And then you go down to a group like aespa, they were like a shoe-in, but no, they're going to be in Japan, so off the list. And then you fall back on a big group like ATEEZ, who was there last year, but so ATEEZ is actually on a tour. They're going to be in Texas that weekend. And then you start going down the list, and I feel like there are so many smaller groups that could have made that lineup a lot better, right? If you think about a group like UA, who just had a comeback today, shout out UA, that would have been a cool thing, right? First time in the US. They got some traction, right? They're just like a mid-tier group on the rise that could have generated a lot of hype, because if you read, these comment sections, there's a lot of people asking for UA, or even go to like a hot group like Triple S, right? America has only gotten the subunit Lovolution, but as hot as Triple S is right now, and I get it, they're super busy. about to have multiple comebacks, right? For anyone who's in the Triple S community, there's going to be 2 subunits coming out pretty soon, which is insane. But okay, right, 2 subunits, that's not the whole 24 member group. You could have shot us some of the other people who aren't going to be a part of those subunits. I feel like they could have figured it out. I feel like that's a big reason why they decided to have this giant group, because you could always stay busy. You could be in multiple places at once as Triple S. So I felt that was a missed opportunity. And then there's just so many other groups that I just think about, and I'm just like, why have they not gotten the attention? And maybe it's just a money play, but there's just so many unanswered questions, and I'm just baffled at why the lineup was so weak. And this is crazy too, because when because people were in such an uproar, but to me it feels like are you not aware of like the festival scene? Because KCON announced the date before anything, right? Okay, KCON's happening this day. Cool. Make your plans accordingly, right? And people were really upset because it's happening the same weekend as San Diego Comic-Con. But whatever, I get it. You gotta make a choice. Do you want to go to the con, or which con do you want to go to? KCON or San Diego Comic-Con? Figure it out. But then also, after they announced the dates, they announced the ticket tiers and ticket prices, and that's where people were really upset. They're like, yo, like, why are you charging $870 for the premium ticket, but we have no idea who's playing? And I'm just like, that happens a lot. Like, look at Coachella, right? One of the biggest festivals in the year, or in the world, excuse me. And they legit announced, hey, literally the week after the fest, like, hey, here's the dates for this year. Okay, 2024 wrapped up, and they're like, hey, here's the dates for 2025. Tickets go on sale like next week. And it's like, yeah, you don't know what you're paying for, but it's okay. Like, when you're paying for these tickets, it's part for the experience of the convention, right? Because these conventions have an identity. You know that there's more than just the music. So if you're really down, or if you're just a super fan, you got to figure it out. Like, I was willing to pony up the $870, but also I was really I was excited for like a very short period of time, because the ticket price got announced, and I'm like, oh shit, $870, that's a lot cheaper than the $2,000 I paid last year. But then I thought about it, I'm like, oh, the tickets are cheaper because the lineup's not going to be as strong. That's the realization that I came to pretty quickly. So my expectations for the lineup weren't super high, but I feel like I got really lucky, because I fucking love Stacy. Stacy's top 3 K-pop groups for me, right? It's twice weekly Stacy, top 3. And shout out Weekly. Weekly's coming to America. Sujin, shout out to our greatest leader, Sujin. She kept her promise. Coming to America, and they're playing the Teragram. Last time I was at the Teragram, I saw Power Trip, Freedom, and Fury, and a couple other bands I can't remember off the top of my head. Crazy tour. So now I'm returning to see Weekly. It's going to be insane. But anyways, I'm just a lucky K-pop fan that, you know, a top 3 group and even a top 10 group in NMIX were on the list. And then even getting to see Somi, because I love Somi. She's super talented. I love her music. So I just got lucky, and I'm willing to pay the price. But I get it for a lot of fans that were upset or, didn't get a ticket, because check it. The tickets, my pre-sale, I got lucky, got my ticket. But then when general sale went on Monday, I was just curious, what's it like trying to get a ticket without the pre-sale? And it was hell. Like, just even trying to get through was really bad. So getting pre-sale was a great choice. But long story short, we're going to KCON 2024. We're going solo, because my guy Ben, shout out the homie Ben, he is a diehard fan of San Diego Comic-Con. He's been going for a long time, and that's his thing. And I had approached him like, yo, like, what's the vibe? Can you go to any night of KCON? And he just said he couldn't. So I had to respect it. So this year we're going back to the 2022 vibes. We're going solo, but it's all good because we got a plan. Hopefully don't get kicked out like last year. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but we're seeing NMIX. It's going to happen. We're going to bring a new sign. Oh, speaking of signs. Okay. I'll get to Izzy and my sign, but anyways, going to KCON, we're bringing a sign for NMIX for because I get to see, and this was probably my favorite thing about this year of KCON. NMIX is playing inside the convention, and I get a special front row seat for everything that's happening in the con at the KCON stage, right? I get my special front section for NMIX, for Stacy, and for Somi. And then I'll go see like TWS and maybe some other bands, just depending on how I'm feeling. But for the most part, Stacy, NMIX, Somi, not going to miss it. But bringing a sign for NMIX, can't reveal it yet. It's going to be a surprise for the convention show. But then when we hit the big arena, I'm bringing the Stacy sign. So it should be a good time. Should be fun. But I'm very interested to see how it plays out this year versus last year, because if it's continuing the trend, it's going downhill. Because 2022 we started up here, right? We're way off screen. Actually, is that my wristband? No. One of these wristbands over here is my 2022 wristband. But seriously, 2022 we started way up here. We got to see Stacy. I snuck into their sound check for Rookies Night. Then Rookies Night they killed it. And then the NMIX random play dance was insane. Got front row for that. But then 2023, right? We get kicked out. I don't even get to make it to the NMIX high touch. You had people camping out like 4 or 5 days in advance, stinking up the place. And there was no Rookies Night. I didn't even go to night 2. Because I got kicked out of the actual convention. So day 1, I got kicked out of NMIX High Touch. But day 2, I was in the convention. We had just saw Limelight. And I got kicked out because of my camera again. But this time security had approached me. Because, day 1, KCON staff kicked me out. But day 2, convention staff, right? The people who actually work for the Los Angeles Convention Center, they'd kicked me out. One of the guys, and they were chill. They were just doing their job. But I got approached by a security guard. He was like, "Yo, your camera, is that a detachable lens?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it is." And he's like, "Okay." He's like, "You have 2 options. You can give me your camera or you can leave." And I'm like, "Not giving you my camera. It's really expensive, so I'm leaving. No issue." But they had like 6 guys escort me out. I looked like a crazy criminal. All these young K-pop fans were all scared. They're like, "Who's that weird tattooed man getting escorted out by like 6 security guards? Like I did something crazy." But I just literally walked in with my camera. I was filming like Limelight shit. So hopefully 2024 will break the streak of going downhill, but I'll report back. All right, but last thing. Izzy was literally life-changing. Shout out to the homies Mark and Chris, my neighbors to my left and to my right. They were super chill. Shout out to my sign. I made this crazy sign for Yeji, and I didn't even make it into the security gate. Like I got mobbed, and they're like, "Yo, you can't bring that in here." And they're very tight-lipped on why I couldn't bring my sign in, and it was just very strange. So I was like, all right, I'll just put it in my car. This is really weird. And I was just really sad because I was so excited to bring that sign in. I had gotten it like a couple of days before because I had it like printed at Staples. But that was tragic. But other than that, concert was fun. Hung out with some cool people. Stayed out a lot later than I should have. Never doing that again. But shout out Izzy. Shout out to all the midseas. Crazy night. But okay. enough of all that. Thank you for listening to my K-pop rant. I hope all of you get into K-pop if you're not already into it. But on today's episode, we had to track down our good friend Izzy, plays in Glare, Worst Behavior, some real South Texas shit, and Riley the band, which I'm so high on. I love Riley the band. If you're not familiar with any of the bands that I just named, I highly suggest you hit pause, go boot up your Spotify, your Apple Music, your Tidal, and literally go listen to Glare. Shout out Sunday Drive Records. Go listen to Worst Behavior. Go listen to Riley the band, and just enjoy it. It's so fun, and I love that all three bands just don't sound like anything, or excuse me, they don't sound anything alike. It's cool. Izzy's really talented. I'm so happy to be able to watch him have success and playing these cool bands. And I'm dying to see Riley the band. No bias. Worst Behavior would be sick too. I'm going to see Glare very soon, but Riley is at the top of my list. But anyways, do all that, right? Go listen to all those awesome bands and then come back here. Listen to Riley and I. That's not Riley. Excuse me. Listen to Izzy and I talk about his upbringing, what it's like in South Texas, and all the cool things going on with all of his bands. It was seriously one of my favorite episodes in a long time. It was great to hear his story and just talk about some music that I just really enjoy. So please strap in, enjoy this conversation. Without further ado, welcome Izzy to the show. All right, and we're recording. Welcome to the podcast. Izzy, how's it going?
I'm doing good.
Yeah, we've been Twitter friends for a really long time. And I always knew that at some point I would have to have you on the podcast because, obviously always seeing your tweets and, seeing you always out there grinding, doing music, which I think is really cool. So I always, had you in mind for a guest to be on this podcast. So I'm happy that, the time has finally come. So thank you for being down to do it.
Yeah, no, thank you for even asking me to do this. I really appreciate it. And I'm really thankful for your time.
Okay, and I'm just curious about your your origin story when it comes to music, because obviously I know the three current bands you play in, but I'm just curious about how you got into playing music.
Sure, yeah. I guess when I first started was in middle school. I did a Hawthorne Heights cover with three of my best friends at the time. And I think from that point on, I was just kind of this is cool as fuck. I want to do this as much as possible, And I don't know what that switch that turned on. And it was just kind of the only thing I ever wanted to do. I immediately put down video games at that point and then just completely dedicated myself to music. And then I think shortly in the summer of summer into high school, I started my first band, which was a metalcore band. Which those people that I met in that band is the singer for Riley, which is one of the bands that I'm currently in right now. I had just moved to the US at that point, maybe 4 or 5 years. I had moved in to the US from Mexico in 2009. So they were straight up the first friends that I ever made. And, bonded over music and stuff. And they pretty much just showed me everything, that I knew or that I like now at this point, kind of. So I was really grateful for that. And they put me onto a bunch of stuff. And then that metalcore band kind of broke up. And then I started my own band, just a melodic hardcore kind of deal thing band. but that was what really like taught me how to like book my own shows and like record my own music and stuff like that. That was called Surmount. When Surmount kind of fizzled out, one of the local hardcore guys in my community here, what's it called, kind of just like swept me up, and we started. They kind of needed like a second guitarist, and that's when I joined Worst Behavior. That was like in 2018. So I had been in like a bunch of like just smaller projects up until that point, and then joined a local hardcore band, and then that's kind of like where my world opened up from like, I want to say 2016, 17 and on. That's where like hardcore kind of entered my, like general sphere. And then I think from there is where I've met all of my friends. Like now the people that I'm in Glare with, they're also people from Brownsville, which is just an hour south of us. And it's the southernmost point in Texas. And they are, it's just kind of like that, we just kind of ended up connecting just by being local to each other and the closest people to each other. And they saw that I was touring with Riley, so I ended up joining Glare, and then so on and so forth. It's just kind of like all snowballed into being the only thing I've ever done post like high school type shit.
And I'm just curious about you moving to America from Mexico. Can you talk about what that was like?
Yeah, it was around the I want to say it was like 2008 or 9 or so, whenever we moved over to the US. There was just like a kind of a complicated situation, but I was basically granted asylum by the US, and I was given like a visa to basically just study and work and be here from that point forward. And that's essentially what I'm still on. I did get granted a permanent residency in 2019, right before the pandemic. So I was basically not able to leave my, area, the Rio Grande Valley, which is literally like the only city right across the northern point of Mexico. Or I mean, there's other points, like touching other parts of Texas, but we are like at the very, very bottom, So, yeah, so basically it's just that from like 2009 on, I've just kind of been here, and yeah.
And being like right on the border, what was it like that much different, culturally, or were you pretty familiar with what it was like in the States?
So also, yeah, it was I want to say it was kind of hard at first, just because like it was also a different time before like the cartel situation got like really situated, like really, really, really bad around that time, like 2008, 2009, 7, 8, 9, around that time. So like we were U.S. or Mexican citizens, so we would be able to like come over to Texas and like be here for a day or 2 or 3, and then just come right back, and it was like not a big deal. So like I kind of got a feel for what it was like being here. I wasn't like clueless as to like what was like hip on like pop radio over here and shit, and like West, like like all the Americanized shit. So it wasn't like something that completely threw me off, but I guess it was when my mom decided that in one of those we were just gonna be like, or she didn't decide, but like it's like, oh no, we're actually gonna be staying here. That's when it kind of hit me, and I was like, oh shit, I'm leaving behind what I thought was my entire life concept. The way that I would go to school was completely different. I don't know. It was just essentially life did flip, but I don't know. I feel like I adjusted, excuse me, pretty quickly, because I was pretty social. I don't know. I met friends, and I feel like that's why I picked up English pretty quickly. Like I only knew like bits and pieces up until that point, but like from like 2008, 9 again, like that's essentially where like my English kind of really like started developing. Like I don't know, like I was really grateful that like I was social, and like I met people, and I talked to a lot of people, and I moved around a lot. So I guess that also developed a lot of like my socializing skills and shit.
Yeah. And when I hear you speak English, like I don't hear like in any like accent. Like you could have fooled me. I could have sworn you grew up speaking English.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I get that a lot. It's definitely something that kind of like, I don't know. Even personally, I get like kind of like, you don't want to feel like you're less like of your own culture than you are. But like, I mean, some people will be like, you're like white passing and shit like that. But I'm like, I don't know, man. This is like, I was born and raised and like I lived and did everything there. I feel like it's embedded into my like DNA and my life and my culture and how I live and everything. So like, I don't know. Some people just be like, "Oh, you're like a white person, like dude," and then your accent, like, or you barely even have an accent or whatever the fuck it is, and like that almost kind of like, ugh, it would hurt before, but now I'm just kind of like, yeah. I mean, I grew up here, so it kind of like it happens. I also grew up with a bunch of like fucking skater white kids and shit, so like they all talk like that, and like I don't know, I kind of like it happens. You know what I mean? It's just kind of like the people that I would be surrounded with.
For sure. And okay, we can take it back to the music. I'm a huge fan of Riley. When I listen to the music, I have like a hard time, putting you guys in like a genre, right? Because like when I hear it, it just kind of like just brings me back to like my younger days when I used to listen to like a bunch of like different stuff, from like Drive Through Records or like stuff on Fueled by Ramen. And I just feel like you guys just are very like eclectic, and you guys do a really good job with like the sound that you guys have, which I think is awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, no, Riley is like one of my favorite projects to play with as well. Like it's just kind of like, yeah, that band is just again, I met Ryan when we were like kids and shit, and I was in my first metalcore band, and then like they had started Riley in like 2018 or something like that. They had already done their own thing for like a year or two, and then their drummer went to like college, was going to become a lawyer, and they were like, "Fuck, like we don't have a drummer. Like I don't know what we're gonna do anymore." And it ended up being kind of like, since we don't have a drummer, we should probably just like go back to writing. And they would write at home. And then at that point, Ryan would just hit me up and be like, "Hey, would you want to fill in?" And I filled in like maybe 2 or 3 times. And then at that point, it just kind of like slowly devolved into me just kind of being in the band. And I ended up recording the record with them. And then that was my first touring experience too, with like Riley. And I don't know, like with this newest record and stuff, like it straight up just feels like, since we all got together and wrote it and shit, like it feels like, I don't know. It was like the most like of myself and DNA that I put on the record, and it felt like super, super good to do that together with my friends that I grew up with.
Yeah. And are you, like your main instrument? Are you a drummer or a guitar, player?
I kind of like picked them both up around the same time. I definitely have some sort of like undiagnosed ADHD or some shit. I've always been like hyper fixated on like learning guitar stuff, and then I'll go through periods where I don't even want to touch my guitar for like months, and all I do is like look into drum stuff, and then I'll hyper fixate on drum, and I just go back to guitar and drums and guitar and drums, and that just kind of was like, those were my hobbies. And it was kind of like a little lame growing up. I would be like, I don't like fuck with like soccer or basketball or anything. I'd kind of just like look at gear, or like, like I like drum gear and guitar gear, and like I nerd out about that shit. I don't know. Like, yeah, I like them both, and I got them both at the same time, kind of.
Okay. Well, hey, I feel like, you having those as your hobby, when you were younger is definitely paying off now, right? Because look at what you're doing, with the hobby. I feel like it's pretty cool to be able to see you, travel with it, put out cool music, and, actually turn it into something.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. It definitely was like a dream, like growing up and stuff, like, just like practicing and stuff at home. And then like, I don't know, it was just kind of one of those things where I was just playing local shit. And then before I knew it, like, I don't know, it just hit me. Recently, we like opened up for like Interpol, Blair did.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of those things where I was like, when the fuck did I ever think I was going to play with the guitar? Is it Guitar Hero? I can't, with the Guitar Hero band. Like, when did it, like, I don't know. Yeah, it's definitely really cool. It's been a long ass time before I got to like the point where I was like, oh, this is rewarding. was definitely a lot of years of eating shit.
Yeah, but
and doing it for the passion.
Exactly, right? Because not a lot of people are willing to put in that kind of work to see the success, right? Because sometimes they'll want it, like instant gratification, or sometimes they just don't have what it takes to to endure that kind of stuff, right? Hitting the road and tours might not be popping at first, but if you put in enough work and write good enough music, that can slowly change.
Right, exactly. It's mostly just putting in like the actual. It's like it's eating, like getting those bad shows, playing the 12 people, getting paid $50 when you're like hundreds of miles away from home. You know what I mean? Like, and like, I don't know, like getting those humbling experiences, like that really build you and make you want to. It's like it's how you react to those things, kind of like it's like. If you fall real hard, some people are just like, oh, like for example, like I grew up skateboarding and shit. I feel like it helped because I would fall and keep trying the same trick over and over and over and over and over, and I would eat shit, hurt myself, and roll my ankle, but I would keep trying. It's kind of like the same experience where like I get these humbling experiences every like now, playing more like bigger shows and shit. It's like rewarding and all, but like eating all that shit for so long, kind of. Built up the character where now I just feel like, damn, I'm grateful for anything. You know what I mean? Like 5 or 500 or 5,000 or whatever the fuck it is. Like, you're grateful for it.
100%. But also, I feel like one really important thing about hitting the road too is just finding your audience, right? Because there's there's bands that I see that I don't care about, but they have like diehard fans. So I'm like, all right, cool. Like that's just not for me. But then there's bands that I absolutely love that my friends just don't care about. So I feel like, getting out there or even just, just putting yourself online and, having people, find you guys. Yeah. I feel like that's just a really important thing too, is just, just being just active enough to either find your audience or have your audience find you.
Yeah of course. And then like in whatever means you can, like again, I couldn't tour for 10 years before I could even, you know what I mean, like before I could even leave the valley, and even then we still had a whole fucking pandemic before I could even leave my hometown. So like in whatever means you can, don't make it feel like, or don't feel like just wait because you can't tour, you're not old enough, you ain't got a car, you ain't got whatever it is that you can't like do it. Riley almost 100%. The other, two will tell you that they got to start on the internet. You know what I mean? Like just whatever limitation it may be, just kind of like use it to your fucking advantage. You know what I mean? Like also like here where I'm at, like I'm like 5 hours from or 6 hours from Austin, 3.5 from like San Antonio. We're far from like everything. So it's kind of like, if we can make it, we're by, you know what I mean? We're like damn near by Mexico. Like if we can try as hard as we can and leave and drive 9 hours to get to fucking, or whatever it is, 11 hours to get to Louisiana or whatever it is. So anybody can, you know what I mean? It's just how hard or how much do you want it,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because it's very attainable if you're willing to put in the work. But a lot of people just aren't willing to make those kinds of sacrifices, or just don't want to make those kinds of drives. So for the people who are willing to do that and see that success, like I'm happy for them.
Yeah, and it's all about sacrifices. Like I got a fiance at home. I have 3 cats, a whole apartment. Sometimes I don't know if I'm going to pay rent on the first, like, or how I'm gonna, and I'm out here like in Mississippi trying to sell like a guitar pedal that I have back home, but it's like being put in those situations where you're just kind of like, I'd still rather be doing that than anything else and being happy, like I'd rather be happy and do this.
Yeah, for sure. And for you to be able to make it work and just enjoy yourself, I feel like that's really important, right? Because sometimes people just get so scared to just enjoy their life, right? They're focused on maybe the wrong things, but I feel like we don't really know if this is the only life that we get. So I feel like we should always just try to maximize our happiness, right? And your happiness might not be other people's happiness, but sometimes you just got to be selfish and just figure it out, and find the right people to surround yourself with.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, and so Riley just put out a new record about a month ago, Keep Your Cool, and I just have like a ton of questions about the album. I'm really curious about the album cover. Can you talk about how that came together? Is that one of your cats, or is that something you found on the internet?
Yeah, no, so that's actually Ryan's cat, Riley. So the band is named after Ryan's cat.
Okay.
Just because they couldn't think of a name for the band, so they just straight up named it after their cat with an exclamation point. And Riley has been on the cover of every single Riley album cover from the beginning to now. And what is it? Pretty much every single time it's been like an illustrated, drawn, painted version of Riley. And on this record, we, as the three of us sat down, wrote it. We all kind of like put everything into it, and we really felt like this was the first time like Riley was represented in the way that we wanted it to be, like influences and production wise and everything. So we felt it was almost fitting that we should put the real Riley on the cover. So like it was just kind of like, this is us. This is Riley. This is Riley, and also the picture itself, Riley being like pissed and scared and angry as like Ryan's trying to grab him, is just like, that's totally Riley's, what's it called? Personality, by the way. She's a huge B word of a cat, but she's like a sweetheart to Ryan. And it was just kind of like the album's pissed and it's scared and it's sad and sometimes it's like, a lot of the times it's very, very angry. So I feel like that album cover really represents it, because it's, all those things in a picture.
Yeah, and I feel like it's one of those album covers where it's like, all right, you see it and you know what it is, and like there's no logo on it, there's nothing. It's just like you see the album cover, and you're like, all right, that's the Riley album. Yeah,
it's a statement. I think it's also pretty cool. Like I like, a lot of my favorite records are just, a statement. Sometimes maybe it is with font or typography or not, but it's just like that, the statement of the actual art itself. That's like really cool to me.
Yeah. Well, I think that cover is awesome. And I want to ask about my favorite track on the record so far. It might change in the future, but who knows? But so far, my favorite track on the record is "Cries in Spanish."
Hell yeah!
Yeah,
I love that song.
Yeah, it's just like when I'm like listening, to the record I'm driving, and it's just like that one always just like resonates with me. I'm just like, all right. I'm like, wait, is that same song? So yeah, so that one's just like I said, right now is my favorite. But I'm just curious about like the feature on the record.
Yes. So Hekra is one of the first artists that I kind of stumbled upon when I start. I don't like how I mentioned that I would always like hyperfixate on like little things.
Mm-hmm.
One of these things is YouTube. I've never grew up. Well, I had cable in Mexico. When we moved over here to the States, I had cable for a little bit, but a lot of the time I was like on like Wi-Fi, like internet. Essentially, I was on YouTube,
mm-hmm.
and Hekra was one of the first bands or artists that I found in that post like niche YouTube into Bandcamp era. And he's just this artist from Chicago that released a bunch of records in the mid to late 2012s that are like proto, what everybody calls now fifth wave emo, which is just like mixed genre. Like there's like screaming and synths and twinkling parts and everything. Hekra just became one of my hyperfixations, along with just like those like rabbit hole bands. And I showed Ryan Hekra back in the day when we were still in the metalcore bands, and Ryan, for some reason, or somehow became friends with them on Facebook, and they became fans of Riley around the time that Self-Titled came out. And I think it was just, we're just kind of like, fuck it, you should hit up Hecker and see what's up, see if they would be interested. And they were like, hell yeah. Super, super sweet dude. We still haven't met him, but we've heard a lot of like stories. He's kind of like, he just played his first show this year.
Okay.
He's kind of like a whole myth, like of an artist, like very like low key. Nobody really seen his face. He plays in a mask. Like, I don't know. It's crazy shit. But that song is like, I don't know. It's just everything that I want in like an emotional Riley song. Some people, like, I've heard that song get compared to like fucking like MCR and shit. Like, I don't know. It's just cool. It's like a fast, emotional, raw, exciting song to me,
Yeah, and I was doing some research on Hecra, and I was just, again, I didn't know anything about Hecra until I listened to the album, and just reading articles about like Hecra is not this person, because we were trying to like figure out who he is. And I was like, oh dang, this is crazy. There's like this mystique around this person.
Yeah. We have a story that somebody told us about their first show. It was like some random, I forget the name of the city, but he showed up with a whole desktop, like set, like a whole computer monitor and big box frame thing, set up his, I think it was FL. It was like one of the Fruity Loops, one of like the most basic DAWs that you can get, and played his guitar through a little, interface. And that was his set on a desk. He set his own desk up and shit. And it was just like, I don't know. It's just the most Hecra thing. Like, if you hear his music, it's very wild, and definitely it's like room clearing music for some. Like they'll if they don't get it, they don't get it. It is what it is. But I don't know. Like we're huge fans, and we're extremely grateful that he lent us, his voice for that one part. It felt everything. He did his whole thing with like the sound design thing with the glitching and stuff, which is like super cool to us, and yeah, super grateful.
Yeah, I feel like there has to be a meeting in person at some point.
Yeah, I hope so. Dude, we've only heard good things. He seems like a sweet guy.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, that's my favorite song, and I really enjoy it. And I want to ask about the music video for Keep Her Cool, Man. Because and one thing that I like about Riley is like, there's so many music videos. I feel like when bands will sometimes put out one music video and then like that's it, they'll continue their career, never do it again. Maybe it's like a budget thing, maybe it's another thing, I don't know, but that always bums me out, because I feel like that's one thing I always look forward to, because growing up, MTV, VH1, BET was like such like a big thing for music for me, because this was like before the internet was like a prominent thing. So to see like these bands, these rappers that I liked, it was all on TV, and there was always music videos attached to the music. So when I listen to bands these days, I was like, man, I hope they take that extra step to do a music video. And I get it, it's not like that popular, there's not some like show that they could get on to maybe give them some incentive to do that, but I feel like it's just so accessible these days to just to shoot a music video. So when I look at you guys on YouTube and see that you guys have so many music videos, I think it's just like an awesome thing, and really fun too for your fans. Yeah, no, we love them. Again, we grew up, I grew up, I mean, I'll speak for myself. I grew up watching them all the fucking time. Again, like I only had cable in Mexico, but a lot of it was like VH1 and MTV and like all that shit too as well. So like, yeah, I grew up on videos, and that's one thing that even before I joined Riley those 2 years, they had already done like 2 or 3. And I was even in a music video. I think it's for, I want to say it is Fight Milk. I was in the music video before I was in the band. Cause like that was just the budget. We just get all the homies together, and we would just go to a parking lot and come up with some story and record it. Like that was just it. And again, like I mentioned, like we're all YouTube, or I was a YouTube era kid, and like so were they, and like hyper online and shit. So like I don't know, it was just kind of like
that's what we liked, you know, even if they're dumb and stupid and like the concepts are silly, like they're cool, and like it is something for the fans and shit. This third record was the first time that we didn't go like crazy. We've actually done a lot, like you mentioned. The last music video before this, Keep Your Cool one, we did was for High School Reunion. The High School Reunion music video was actually shot on like a 8K like cinematic camera, and we had like this crazy, you know, thing that we all got rented from like the university, and our friend who's our good friend Carl Neely, who does all our videos, like got his hands on for like a day. We got like a drone, like I don't know, we spent the most we've ever had, and we used our most resources. It did the worst. So we were just kind of like, like, why don't people fuck with videos as much as we do? You know what I mean? So we kind of like decided, we're like, you know, we're going to focus everything on the music, on the album, on the record for LP3. And unfortunately, that's why we didn't do as many videos. But we're hoping if, you know, the steam is still like cooking, we get to make a few videos. We definitely have in a notepad for Riley's stuff, like music video ideas for Bad Boys. You have music video ideas for Kill Your Boss. We have one for Talk It Out. Like, we got them. The ideas are there.
Yeah, and shout out Carl Neely. Is he just a homie, or you know, what's your relationship with him?
Carl Neely is a gem in the Valley, Texas hardcore scene, and a gem in my life in general. He is a good friend. He's been in a bunch of hardcore and deathcore bands and metalcore bands. I've been in a band with him since, you know, like when I was like 18. I was in a band with him when I was like 18. Just like a great dude, local legend, great drummer. And he's just dedicated a lot of his time. For a long time, it was his part-time. He would put it aside to just go and shoot videos live and wherever it may be. And fortunately, he's kind of like little by little has gotten like, you know, pickup gigs, like, you know, shooting like, you know, like events and shit like that. But he's little by little trying to make it like his full thing. So like all the love to Carl Neely. He's like deserves more work than just us just bothering him every time we have an idea.
Yeah, and it's cool to see, you know, if you watch the Fight Milk music video to, you know, Keep Your Cool Man, like you can, I see like the progression in his work, because I feel like he does like a really good job when I'm watching like your music videos. I'm like, wow, these look really like cinematic. I'm like, who the fuck is this Carl Neely guy? He does a really good job. Yeah,
he is a pro, truly. Like, and like super creative as well. There's a lot of shots that are just straight up Carl's, you know, cooking, you know.
Yeah. Okay. And then for the Keep Your Cool Man music video, you mentioned, you know, lower budget than the last. So was that like just like one of your guys' like houses, or did you have to like get like an Airbnb or something?
Yeah, we rented an Airbnb closer to the beach where we live. We'll just, you know, further south. But yeah, we just ended up renting an Airbnb for a day and shooting in every single spot that we could in that house. Yeah. Just again, it was also like, you know, just more chill. It was like single, you know, shot straight, you know.
Yeah. What about that shot of you guys on like the balcony where like the neighbors walking by, driving by, looking, wondering what the hell are these guys doing?
Yeah, that happened like two or three times, but people were just kind of like, huh? Or there was like a honk once. Ryan, there's also a part where like Ryan's like on like there's like the sky behind them and they're just kind of playing guitar. That was like people kept driving past you for some reason there during that part. But yeah.
It's weird when people see a camera. It's like they don't know how to act. They get like really weird.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but I thought that that series of shots of you just on the drums, where it's like, you know, in the different settings, I thought was cool.
All Carl Neely. He thought of that.
Yeah, great job. Yeah, gotta give him his props, because that's one thing that I like too, is the loyalty, right? Because like when I'm watching like the Fight music video and just kind of going through the history and just seeing the same names there, I'm like, this is awesome. I love to see that.
Yeah, again, he's like, Riley's a 3-piece band, always has been, since they like branched off of the original band they were before. So we've always just like, we've been super grateful to have really good friends that have made the band, what it is. Like, we wouldn't have been as, public, or our faces wouldn't have been as so attached to the band if it wasn't for Carl and Joey Martinez, who's our photographer. Like, those are literally the 4th and 5th member of Riley that don't even touch an instrument for our band, and incredibly talented in their own right.
Yes, I was going to give props to Joey too, because he worked on the Bad Boys Boxing Club music video.
Yep. Yeah. Joey's incredible as well. He's shot for like so many bands through the Austin area. Also like a local legend in his area himself, and he's easily like one of the biggest pillars in the Austin emo DIY scene post 2020. Since shit has picked up. His community and the Arnold House there in Austin have like straight up fostered a crazy community now, and a lot of it is thanks to Joey. And part-time, he just shoots all these crazy ass pictures and videos too. Like, it's insane.
Yeah, that's wild, but really cool to see, right? Yeah, because I wouldn't know those names if I wasn't into Riley, but it's cool, like I said, to see through the years that those names haven't changed, and they've been able to grow with you guys, as a band.
Yeah.
Now I am curious about, you did mention big budget music video wasn't really viewed well, but obviously I came after that had already released, but when I watched it, I was like, "Damn, this is cool." They because I watch all the way to the end, right, to like all the credits. You thank the guy who got the venue, and then there's all those like cool like B-roll shots of like you guys on some sort of stage, which I thought was cool. But I could tell that there's a lot of effort put into that. But yeah, that's kind of crazy that it was so big budget, but like not a lot of people watched it.
Yeah, and like again, Fight Milk is one of the more popular ones, and that was straight up the first most, random fucking videos. You know what I mean? It's just you don't pick and choose what grass the people latch onto or whatever the fuck, but you're grateful for it all.
Yeah, and I am curious because in the music video, it was like, graduating class 2014, we're 2024. So did Ryan's 10-year already happen, or was it?
I think it was last year. I think they graduated in 2014, and or it might be this year. I need to ask them. I'm not 100% sure, if I'm really honest.
I'm curious, yeah, because imagine Riley plays the 10-year reunion, which I don't know. I skipped out on my 10-year reunion, so like I got invited to it on like Facebook, and I was like, I do not talk to any of these people. I'm really embarrassed that they found my Facebook, but I was like, I'm not going. I didn't go.
Yeah, I went to a high school that was like filled with a lot of like people that were like, look at what I do. So like I could not imagine myself going back to that place. I feel like it would just feel a fucking like what measuring contest,
Yeah, and imagine trying to explain to them like the type of music that you play and that you like go on tour. They'd be like, "What is that?"
Yeah, no, I'm great. All I need is my family to understand it, and they just barely do. So it's just like good with me, yeah.
Okay. And you mentioned the Fight Milk music video. Was it always planned for you to be in there as an extra? Because I was watching that, I was like, he's wearing. I was like, is that Izzy? I don't know. He has glasses on, looks like him, but it's like years ago. So I was like, I'm pretty sure that is him.
Yeah. No, it definitely is. It was kind of like it was planned, but again, it was just like we were always around each other's orbit. Like it's like this area that we're from, the Rio Grande Valley, is such a small microcosm of a community. So like pop punk bands play with the hardcore bands, and the deathcore bands play with the hardcore bands, and you know what I mean? Like it's just, I don't know. It was just like I wasn't even playing in like any of the DIY emo bands at that time. I was just straight up doing my own other thing. It was just like we're homies, and I was there, and we were, we hang out all the time. They're like, "Hey, you want to go shoot this video?" I'm like, "Okay." It's just it's just a product of us being from a small, not a small town, but definitely a small community of people. There's straight up like the 10 years ago, it was like 20 of us, that, and we all talk to each other still or know each other still.
Yeah, I feel like when you have a smaller community, it's really important to really stick together, right? Because if like one person leaves, it's like, damn it, like that's like a real a big effect on the community, since there isn't like such a big pool of people to help support it. But I think it's really awesome to be able to hear that you guys also know each other like so many years later, because dude, like people come into like these like subcultures and drop out so fast. Like you show up and you're like, hey, whatever happened to so and so? It's like, oh, like you find out it's like, oh, like it really wasn't for them. They just were here for a short time.
Yeah, that's the main thing. Like the real recognize the real, and the people that like are really into it or really down for their space or their community really stick to it. Like there's a reason why I only talk to the same 10 people, max, outside of my bandmates. You know what I mean? Like it's just a community that it's just like, it's just what it is. Like we just stick together, we stick tight. That's why we've only gone to Carl for the videos and shit. Same thing.
Okay. And you did mention that you have all these ideas for other music videos. What would actually push you guys to actually bring one of those ideas to life?
I think like if there's I don't know, like a demand for it, but I guess just straight up, if there's people are still messing with it, like in a year or so, or like in a few months or so, because like it feels like nowadays, like you drop something and then like stuff's dropping so quickly that stuff just gets forgotten. You know what I mean? Like, so I don't know. I feel like now would be, or within the year would be a good time to like just kind of like let everybody know that we're still around and shit. So like I think it's just a matter of time, and like if the climate's really there for music videos. I don't really feel like a lot of bands are doing it like that, and if they are, I'm not really seeing them, unfortunately. But like I don't know, it just depends. It's so weird.
Like that's a way to stick out, right? Nobody's doing it. It's gonna be Riley.
And that is a good point. And that's something that we do really like. Maybe it's something that we should talk about in the future.
All right, couple more things on Riley. I am curious about Counterintuitive Records. How did you guys, like a band from so far south in Texas, link up with them?
Oh, that is thanks to one of the other accessory members of Riley, Connor Kincaid. He is our booking fella and our manager. Well, he's not really he's not our booking agent anymore. We have a booking team. He is our manager. He's our really good friend, and he used to book us out in Bowling Green for this wonderful fest called Fochella, where I met a lot of the bands in the DIY and emo scene and stuff. And he essentially kind of like friends of friends knew the owner, shot him the record. He really, really, really messed with it, and then he communicated, like he reached out to us through Connor. It was just kind of like one of those things where he really, really believed in the record and wanted to do something with us for it. So we're like super grateful for that. And Counterintuitive was one of those labels that in the van, we'd always be like, dude, dream label for us to drop LP3 on. It has to be Counterintuitive. Like that's like and it's straight up like for us, like for our community, like from where we come from, it's really important for us to like represent like the core, you know what I mean? So like Counterintuitive represents that to like a really really, really high degree. It's a standard of like how labels should carry themselves and handle their artists and be, so we're super grateful for that.
All right, awesome. And last thing, you end the record with "Talk It Out," which is like a slower pace song compared to the rest of the record. And I was really surprised too, because like the whole record is just like, I feel just like high energy, just like really upbeat, fun songs. Then you ended on a slow song. I was like, oh, this is cool. This is a different side of Riley, and it's a cool way just to kind of end on like a somber note. And I'm just really curious on why you guys decided to do that.
Yeah, I think when we were putting together the album like order, there was this like thing where we were like, we don't know where we want to put this, but we really want to put this song on the record. It was just a song that we kind of like ended up putting together after an idea that we had in the car. But it was just like, when it came to putting it in the order, it was just like the record was so pissed off, so angry, so in your face. Like at some points it was like very melodramatic, very like, I don't know. I just felt like at the end, it's one of those things where it's like, have you ever seen that movie Everything Everywhere All at Once?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. That scene where it's like all that shit is happening and it's like, it's going crazy. And then it just stops and it gets like really quiet. And then it's just the rocks and they have that little monologue where they're talking.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like that feeling where it's like everything's going, it's so fast, nothing's ever like the record's just going and going and going for 25 or like 24 minutes straight. And then at the end, it's just like this soft little like sad country-ish pop emo track thing. And the lyrics are still really, really sad and pissed off and angry, but it's just like in a whole different side of it. It was just kind of like the best, like, way to like feel it. It's almost like that rush and then just boom.
All right. Well, I feel like you guys, great choice with that because it was something that I wasn't expecting, right? Because like you said, the whole record is just, has this like this tone to it. But when you get to the end, it's just so different. But I really enjoyed it.
Hell yeah! I'm glad. We really like that song. It's fun to do. We're gonna be playing it for an album release show here in Austin soon, and I'm freaking out because it's got a lot of like strings and all that on the backtrack and shit. So.
Well, I'm looking for hopefully somebody records it so I can watch it on YouTube later.
Hell yeah.
Okay. And you mentioned earlier Worst Behavior just put out the newest record, Dragged Across Heaven, which is featured on my monthly hardcore playlist, which I was happy to feature Worst Behavior on it because I like the record. And I'm just really curious about that band's origin because you did mention earlier that you're playing second guitar, but I'm just curious about because when you look at Worst Behavior and Riley, like sonically, like two totally different bands. But I'm just curious, for you, what was it like joining that band?
Yeah, joining Worst Behavior was like my introduction to like crossover thrash and hardcore and punk. Really, like I had been going to local hardcore shows for at least like a year, 2 or 3 at that point, but they were the first people to like Danny, he goes by Danny McNasty. He's my OG, like quite literally showed me everything that I know about community and hardcore and everything. And all my friends that I've met through that band are just straight up like what has made up the core of who I am as a person, like to this day. But that it was just straight up like I was doing a melodic hardcore band and that band broke up and I was doing like a metalcore band. And then as soon as I broke up that metalcore band, Danny hit me up, was like, "You're free now, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Yeah, you're going to play guitar for Worst Behavior." And I'm going to like, basically he just grabbed me by the hand. I was like, we're doing this shit. And it kind of like slowly turned into me and especially with this newest record, like I ended up taking up a lot of like the writing portion towards the newest stuff. I feel like we would collaborate a lot, and then towards this newest record, we kind of ended up like, since I was gone so often, I would just straight up come home, bust out a demo or two, send it over to them, and then they would like change a couple things, and then we'd be like, boom, that's a track, and then that would be it, and then we'd move on to the next one. But when I would come back and we would actually sit down together and listen to and like workshop these songs, like after we were all like, when I was actually in the room, we ended up like putting together the most complete version of what we wanted Worst Behavior to sound like. I feel like it's always been like a weird mix of just like punk and hardcore and metal, but like we're really leaning into like the more crossover and like the metal side of like the bands that we like. And it's just it's just like, I mean, we're all just hardcore dudes that just want to do something more like and on the metal side almost. But yeah, it was just straight up like they picked me up.
Yeah, and I feel like for that crossover thrash sound, I feel like you guys did it justice with this record, and especially when I think of Texas, right? You got to think about the legendary bands that play that kind of sound from Texas. So for you guys to do that sound justice, I thought it was awesome, and it definitely listening to it, I'm like, okay, yeah, this band is definitely a Texas band, like in a good way.
Yeah, we pay our respects in a bunch of different little ways. I mean, we're all big fans of like New York hardcore and like that, like the Cro-Mags and shit like that. But more than anything, we want to represent like the power trip, the Iron Age in us, the skirt, like the fucking, the dress code, the unit, all that shit that like the punk, the hardcore, the metal, all that stuff that like builds us. You know what I mean? Like that's what we want to put out there. And sometimes it is a little bit harder being from like where we're at. Sometimes it doesn't make it all the way to the, the top part of the state, like sometimes we're not like as heard as every other band and shit. But like no matter what, we're always putting that shit out for ourselves. And we want to make sure that we represent our state and our, like our community, Valley, Texas hardcore, like with every single thing that we put out. So, like we really do try to represent.
For sure, and I mean when I say it, yeah, like listening to the record, I feel like you guys did a really good job. So I hope, with this, I hope people at least start to pay attention.
Yeah, I mean, what's it called? I've kind of had a hard time, like in between, like all the other two bands that I'm in and stuff. Like it's kind of hard to try to, pitch it to other. Like labels and shit like that. So definitely, like, if any other label and shit that listens to it and fucks with it wants to put it out, like we've put out everything ourselves for years. We make our own tapes. We've made our own 7 inches. We're making our own vinyl. We've made our own merch drops. We handle like we do absolutely everything like a record label. Like we have done for like the last 15 years. So individually in other projects, so like, I don't know, like it just, if somebody else believes in it as much as we do, like we would re-drop this shit in a heartbeat. It just takes somebody else, hearing it. I don't know. Sometimes it just needs to reach,
For sure. And I'm, looking at the album art, I'm like, oh, this is crazy. Who came up with that?
That is our good friend Edgar. His @name is Edgarzilla. On Instagram, I can't remember his last name currently, but Edgar, he's done crazy work for insane artists like Blink-182 and what is it? He did he's worked with like Guns N' Roses and like he's worked with like huge names. He's also a Valley, Texas hardcore dude who used to play in a bunch of Texas, in hardcore bands in our area. So he's made it in his own way, and he definitely helped us out with doing the art for the record. Huge dude, like help with the actual visual aspect of it. We basically gave him the music and told him, this is what we're thinking. And he's like, boom, that was that's all him,
Mm-hmm. Boom. Did a great job. That's awesome. And I had no idea that, he's worked with all those other, big artists. That's crazy.
Yeah, dude. And I wish I could remember off top. I'm pretty sure I could pull it up, but like he's done shit for Guns N' Roses and Queens of the Stone Age and Slipknot and the Black Sabbath, like a Black Sabbath, like online drop. It's insane. He's truly like unreal.
Okay. And Worst Behavior, you guys just played at the first annual Hardcore Summer Jam that was put on by you.
Yeah, that's us. Band in RGV is us.
Yeah, can you talk about what that was like, that experience? Because I'm really curious about, like, you know, the booking side, which we can get to, but I'm really curious about how the first annual Hardcore Summer Jam went.
Dude, it was incredible. We basically have had a bunch of like a lot of the shows locally have gone like great over the year already. Like we're like at the halfway point or whatever. But we really wanted to put on something that truly felt like a summer hangout, you know, like where we can show up just a little bit earlier and have like a bunch of bands. And it's like small fest style. We had like over 260 people show up. By the first band, it was already getting like packed out. We got basically every local hardcore band that we could at the time. That we feel is like representing like from, you know, like from the power violence-y crusty shit all the way to like the oi side of like the valley, which like some people don't even know exists, you know? So, yeah, we kicked it off with like False Front. We had Mankind, who's a local band here, play it. And Warning Shot, which is another cool local hardcore band, all that have put out like, you know, things here and there. I think False Front's about to put out an EP. But we brought down Ozone from the Fort Worth area, who are incredible. And like they put out their last record, I think it was with NMZ and Triple B, or Triple B and somebody else. Corruption. I'm sorry. But incredible. And Yield to None, like completely from Florida, like the most insane set from start to finish. Just like we get a lot of new kids, like some people call them like I would call them like the Affliction kids, the ones that look like Zach Bagans from Ghost Adventures.
Okay.
You know,
yeah.
like, yeah, okay. So so we get a lot of those. And not everybody knows like, oh, this is moshing or this is what, you know, two-stepping is or whatever. There's kids there that you saw it click when they saw somebody else do it. They're like, I am going to do that. And they would just jump in and start trying. And like any band that you can see, like straight up, just like flip the switch on a fucking like 15, 16-year-old, probably going to their first, second or third show or whatever it is, was just like insane to me. So yeah, Yield to None from Florida was really, really, really good. And then we ended the night. We played one new song because we're gonna do like an EP release. But yeah, dude, it was great. The vibes were incredible. We watched UFC afterwards. It was pretty good. I didn't stay because I had to go to bed, but there was a whole hangout. You know, it was pretty chill.
That's cool. I love that. You know, those vibes, just wanting to come together and just do something fun for the scene, and to have some cool you know, bands from out of town make the trip down. I feel like that's always a humbling thing when, like, you know, bands are willing to make the drive to your scene and you know, want to support and want to play.
Yeah, and for us, again, we're at almost the southernmost point of Texas, so from here to Dallas, it's like 9 hours or something like that. It's like whenever we do get bands that come down, the kids really show, or like the people, everyone like truly shows, like they go hard, like as hard as possible. And like, they're just grateful. Like we don't get a lot of like traveling artists, you know, all the time. We do have some promoters that like work on trying to get like the bigger, you know, bands like in packages and stuff like that, but like those aren't accessible to everyone. Sometimes they're at 21 plus venues or whatever it may be, you know what I mean? Like it's just this is good. Like this is something that everybody can go to, everybody can enjoy, and like it taught me a lot of good moral, you know, like things and that have built my character. So I don't know. We just try to put that back out into the community,
100%. And yeah, I feel like these days we are seeing, the more regional, things for bands, right? I feel like I've seen a lot of, okay, we're doing the Texas weekend because to want to do a full US tour, it is a lot, and it's a lot easier to just, all right, let's go do the West Coast weekend, East Coast weekend. We can go do the Texas weekend, which is cool because for bands to be able to just get out there on those weekends when they might not be able to do a full US tour. So it's cool to at least see them getting out there more. But when I'm starting to see Texas become more of a thing for bands, I think that's really awesome. But when you think about Texas, like geographically, it's such a big state. How can we try to convince bands to go all the way down south so they can book shows with you guys?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it's a lot of it is taking the chance, and sometimes it's just kind of like just knowing about us, like we try our hardest to put our shit out there on Instagram and stuff. So like other local bands from other areas that are thinking about hitting up Texas for their first runs, or like even bigger artists can even know who we are. You know what I mean? Like, just that's why whenever we can, Riley will share VTHC shows or Band in RGB shows, or whenever we can, Glare will share like Band in RGB shows or whatever we can, because we still try to bring that attention to this area. You know what I mean? Like it's just the only time people really come down to the valley is when they're going to go do like a South American or a Mexico run. You know what I mean? Like we're that far out of the way. So we just got to convince people that like we're either worth the trip and that we'll take care of you, which we do. We always do for every single band. And like, what's it called? It's just taking that chance. It's sometimes it is scary traveling like, an extra 4 hours towards the Mexican border or whatever it may be to potentially not see that many people. But we hope that, through our shows and the videos and pictures and everything that we upload and stuff, and hopefully more people just see that, that we're out there, and they got to give us a chance.
100%. Yeah. I feel like that's the biggest thing is, just take that shot, maybe start the run down south and work your way up to the, more established scenes. So I feel like that could be a thing, instead of trying to squeeze in the middle. I feel like, all right, let's take a chance. Let's play somewhere new. I feel like that should be a cool selling point too. It's like, hey, it's like, you haven't been down here before. Like, we got a cool scene. Come down here, check it out.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. We used to have like a bigger big hardcore fest that we would bring down a lot of like regional, like around Texas, and regional being, bands just outside of the Texas perimeter or whatever the fuck, that would come down, called Valley Fest. And we would get a bunch of bands back then. It'd be a good thing to kind of break that. And that's kind of what we're going with December Jam, like starting to bring that. We started with like some big Texas bands, but like, I mean, we got somebody from Florida. We got Covert from, Covert's from Missouri. Mm-hmm. So like, we're starting to work our way to like kind of bring more and more here.
All right. I'll tell all my friends that are promoters, hey, go hit up Band in the RGV. Go South Texas. Check it out.
Yeah. So more like the real South, like none of that San Antonio shit, like South Texas.
Real South. In 2020, my friends and I did a road trip to Austin, and on the way home, I was, it was my turn to drive, and I just sat in the car on the way there, so I didn't really even think about it. But when I was leaving Texas, that's when it hit me on how big the state actually is. Because I remember driving west for like 4 hours, and I'm like, all right, we got to be near the border soon, right? And I like looked at the map, and I'm like, holy shit, we haven't put a dent in this place. This is crazy.
Yeah, it's awful. It definitely sucks traveling out west.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's crazy. But Texas, I was a fan. We spent like literally like one full day in Austin, and this was like during like the thick of the pandemic, so it was like really eye opening to see how different Texas was versus like back home here in California.
Yeah, it was definitely it depends on the pockets. Austin was like in a weird gray area depending on where you went. Like Austin was like early ish to like the whole lockdown thing, but yeah, I don't know. It just depends. It was really weird during that time.
Okay. Now I want to ask you about Glare, right? We talked about all the two current bands, but then now I just want to move on to Glare. Earlier today, there was a tour announcement, which I thought was pretty cool because I feel like. And this just I love Turnover, but I feel like a lot of times when they go on tour, I'm just like I have no idea who these bands that they're going on tour with. So when I saw that you guys were on the flyer, I was like, oh cool, there's a band that I know. This is awesome, and I'm just curious, what that was like for you to be able to get that news that you're going on tour with Turnover, because I think they're just seriously so sick from like their whole discography, right, from like the first EP to like what they're doing now. It's so cool.
Yeah, that was one of those like 18-year-old me moments. Was like, huh? It's crazy. Like that. It's straight up like it's a huge blessing. It's like one of my favorite records when it came out and shit. Like, what was it? Peripheral, and then the one right after I really liked, Nature. One.
Yeah, Good Nature.
Like, I don't know, dude. They are great band, and we're glad that they even asked us. And to top it off, we're going with Glixen, who's like our best. Was like one of the first people that I met when I first joined Glare, and also like our best friends. Like straight, we have slept in their living room more than we have anywhere else outside of like our home base in Austin. Like they are the best. Insane band, and they're definitely like the next band that's gonna like be huge, like huge.
Yeah, I'm stoked for you guys. Like I said, Turnover, great band, and that's cool. I didn't know the relationship with Glare and Glixen, so I feel like that's like a cool like full circle kind of thing, right? Like you guys are putting in that hard work, and here's a moment where like, oh wow, a lot of that's paying off because like look where we're at together.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I'm not sure if they know. I'm sure they fuck with Turnover. We're all like, it's gonna be like a crazy like experience, like seeing them live every night. I haven't even seen them like live, period. So opening up for them is gonna be the first time that I see them, and it's gonna like, I don't know. That's truly broken. That shouldn't happen, but I'm very grateful for it.
Wait, and you're talking about Turnover?
Yeah, Turnover. Yeah, us, Glixen and us, like opening up for Turnover. It's just like I've never even seen them, so it's like, holy shit. It's crazy that that Glare gets to open up for them.
Yeah, that's wild. Yeah, they definitely put on a good performance. I haven't seen them in a long time. But the last time I saw them was at this like crazy festival. My buddy was filling in on guitar for them, and I remember he had hit me up. He's like, "Yo," he's like, "Do you want to hang out? Do you want to come see Turnover?" I'm like, "Say less." I'm so down. So rolled out to I can't remember the name of the fest. It's escaping me, but it was like not something that I would have normally gone to because like 90% of the music I'd never even heard of it. But Turnover was playing and Fury was playing. So I just remember I saw Fury and then we went to like main stage and watched Turnover, and it was just so cool. I was like, this is so weird and so random, but this is awesome.
Yeah, great band.
Yeah, and that's cool. From never having seen them, but now you get to see them like on tour like every night. That's so awesome.
Yeah, and like it's kind of weird adjusting to playing with like these like bigger bands. Like again, like just coming from like just playing like smaller shows just 2, 3, 4 years ago now. Like it's all been post pandemic. Truly, when I truly like I stopped doing what I was working at for 4 years before then and just went all in on this. Like it's been such a jarring change, but at the same time, it just feels like this is all I've ever worked towards since I was, 13 or whatever, since I've been a sentient adult here in the US. I've wanted to be in a band that's toured and stuff. So like this is a full circle thing for me. Like it's super grateful for it at every moment.
You gave up video games to nerd out about music.
Yeah.
And so Turnover Tour, it's awesome news, but then also you're coming to Pomona. You guys are playing at the Glass House.
Yes, for Viva Pomona.
Which is crazy. I was looking at the lineup. I was like, I know 2 bands, Chico and Glare.
Yeah, same. I know a very few bands on the bill, but I do know one that I was really excited for on the day that we're playing. They're also from Texas. Hold up. Wait, no, they're not from Texas. But Rocket is playing the day that we're playing, and they are very, very, very good. They're from LA, but they are so good, and I'm very excited.
Rocket, I'll check that out. But I'm curious for Glare, you guys are just traveling in for that show and then leaving, or you guys got stuff planned around it?
No, I think we're gonna be like just getting to that show and then getting back home.
Okay, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's just we're working on a lot of stuff for like towards the end of the year and stuff. So we're trying to just do little things here and there just to keep everybody like, yo, what's up? We're still alive. Yeah,
yeah, just like be like super focused. And then coming up. Is it this weekend or is it next weekend? Super Heaven?
Yeah, it's this weekend.
Oh, it's this weekend. Yeah. That's cool too, right? Like bands, just coming in doing these cool things in Texas. But Super Heaven, like, what an amazing band! I think it's cool for them to want to show love to Texas, right? Because they did Japan recently, and they played California and like these bigger festivals. But I think it's awesome for them to want to travel down to Texas and show some love.
Yeah, again, like. One of those full circle bands as well. That was like one of the first like alternative bands that I got into. I got into Super Heaven before I got into hardcore. You know what I mean? Like it's insane. Like it's very super that I don't think it's gonna hit me until I'm actually there. They're very nice people. I met them already outside of the show in Vegas. So like the people in the band are really, really nice. But it just kind of like still hasn't hit me that I'm gonna be playing with Super Heaven. Also, like it's insane. Love that band. That's also like for the rest of the members in Glare. That's one of those bands that definitely was like one of the inspiring reasons for them to even start an alternative band when there was a lot of hardcore going on in our scene. You know what I mean? So it's a big full circle for Glare.
That's awesome. It is cool, and I love that. Super Heaven is active again, right? Because they went on like hiatus or broke up or whatever, which I thought was like, wow, they were like doing really cool stuff, really good music, really good shows, tours. But for whatever reason, I don't blame them, but I'm just happy that they're back because I'm just like fans of. All the other stuff that they do like outside of Super Heaven, because I just know how talented they all are. But yeah, when they get together at Super Heaven, I'm like, yeah, this is like quality music, and I loved it back then, and I still love it today.
Yeah, Webbed Wing is like a side project from that, right? Yeah, super good. Like, that's also like it scratched that itch like that much, but like I'm just excited to see those records that I was like super into back then,
Yeah, like Jar is perfect. Like that record is insane.
Yeah, our guitarist, one of the other 2 guitarists for Glare, Rez, has an original Daylight Jar shirt, and it is quite literally like falling at the seams. Like you could see through it. It's like brown instead of black. Holes everywhere, but he will not get rid of it. That's how like we love that band. Like it's
that's awesome. Yeah, no, and it's really cool too that you guys get to do those 2 dates with him, especially for you guys being such big fans and for them being an inspiration for Glare. I think it's really awesome.
Yeah.
So you mentioned, stuff for Glare later in the year. Anything you can speak on, or is it just still a little too early?
Yeah, not much I can speak on. This turnover thing was like something that is kind of hinting at a round of other things going on around that time frame ish, which is like about as much as I could say. But it's definitely a very busy end of the year and early next year in the Glare camp. It's been kind of like, I don't want to say it's like a slow burn, but I feel like Glare has done a lot in Texas and grown a lot in Texas to like start our roots and shit. And I feel like now since 2020, we've been kind of working our way to being more of like so people know us. Cause like we just played to, we opened up for, it was, I am so sorry. Fleshwater. It was Fleshwater. We did like a pop-up thing because we couldn't get into Canada, and they let us open up their show. There's definitely a thing where there's like, we would be the people at a Fleshwater show. Like, we are hardcore people in an alt rock band. But a lot of the people that we play to are concert goers. They're not people that are into hardcore that so happen to stumble into alternative music. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, so it is kind of like we're working our way into being like, hey, we're playing with like Fleshwater. We're playing with like other bands that are in our realm to kind of establish who we are. Because this whole like us getting bigger thing, like a lot of people will call us like a TikTok band, because we had a lot of like, around the time when TikTok got big, like we had like a song catch on and shit. They kind of just want to, I don't know, like we want to grow out of that space so people know that who we are, and like our fans also see us, it's kind of hard to explain.
When I think of Glare, I think of Sunday Drive Records.
The absolute fucking goat.
What a label, right? It's crazy.
What an incredible label. Like, that is straight up rev vibes. Like, that's it. Like, dude, just forget it. Love that fucking man. Jonathan's the man.
Yeah. Just got married recently.
Yes, he did.
Congrats Jonathan and the missus. It was cool because, I don't talk to him every day. So when I opened up Instagram and I was like, oh, he's married now. That's awesome.
Yeah. In a true, very Jonathan fashion, super low key, just like, boom, one day it's like, hey, me and my partner are married now. We're like, whoa, oh shit. Yeah. But now he gave us all a heads up and shit. We knew what he was up to, but it's just so cool. It makes me so happy to see like him thriving. And then he's always taking care of us, man. That's why we are always like, no matter where we're at, what label helps us out or whatever, it's always SDR. Like we represent them like as much as we can.
Yeah, no, I think it's awesome. Yeah, because anytime I've ever had communication, it's always been very pleasant. So I love the label. I'm always down to support. I was at a show a couple of months ago, and I saw a guy with a face tattoo. He got the logo of Sunday Drive Records. I was like, I was kind of taken aback. I was like, I had to talk. Like, I didn't know who he was. So I walked up to him. I'm like, is that a Sunday Drive Records tattoo? And he's like, yeah, man. He's like, this label saved my life, and got pretty deep. And I'm like, oh shit, this is crazy. So I sent it to Jonathan, but that guy had already reached out, so he already knew. But I'm like, this is insane.
What? That is insane.
Yeah.
Fuck.
I'll send you the picture when we're off air because I have it on my phone. I took a picture.
Yeah, I want to see that.
It's crazy. But okay. As we wrap up, I'm just really curious for you, right? You're in 3 awesome bands. How do you juggle that, right? Because it's just like, obviously, like I know you want to give your time to all 3, but I'm sure like you're gonna have to schedule things in a certain way to where you can be, in 3 places, at different times, because obviously you can't be in 3 places at once because that's nearly impossible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. A lot of it is just like filling in shit on a calendar. It's kind of like I try to like, I don't know. I can't really answer that like with full like confidence because I'm still kind of like working it out. Again, I started touring post 2020 really like heavily at the beginning of 2021. And I think the main thing that I've like kind of started getting the grasp of now is that I am a human and I have breaking points as anyone else does, physically or mentally or socially or emotionally. I have a boundary that I need to like, respect for myself and like relax. And like sometimes I need to be away. I need to not, be on the road. So like just this year, 2024, I've kind of like taken a stand and been like, nah, dog. First, I need a month or two back to back. Like I'm not playing any shows. Or if I'm playing any shows, they're in my hometown with worse behavior. You know what I mean? Like a band that I'm in my hometown, I can go, come back. You know what I mean? And it's just my hometown. Like I'm barely learning. It's a lot of filling in the dates. It's a lot of in advance and kind of like first come, first serve if I'm available and nobody's doing anything kind of like that. And a lot of it is just kind of like, when should I rest? When should I give myself time? I just got engaged in January. So like now I'm also kind of working on like building my life. Like, I don't know, like I also want to build a family one day and stuff like that. So like I'm learning to give myself time. And that's one of the things that I'm kind of like learning. And that's the main thing, just, giving yourself time.
For sure. I can respect that because there was a time where I didn't, protect my happiness and I was ready to give it to whoever and whenever. But then there was a point where I was like working like 3 jobs and I only had like 1 day off and that was it. Cause even like all the other, 6 days of the week, I was juggling, working between the 3 jobs and then even just trying to have, like an hour to myself to just try to enjoy my time. But it wasn't until then where I'm like, wow, like I, do a lot of things that waste time. I'm around a lot of people that don't respect my time. So I was like, I gotta, protect, my mental state. And then just even like just the very little time that I had at the, back then when I was working 3 jobs, but then slowly I dropped 1 job. So I went down to 2 and then realized I was like, I don't need a second job. I was like, I'm fine. So then I just went back to 1 and I was like, okay, this is cool. Now I have all this free time. So now I'm just going to do what I want and, and just try to enjoy this as much as I can.
Yeah. And now it's kind of like, I'm very grateful that touring has been like, very good to me. And like, I'm doing as much as I can when I'm not home, like selling clothes and selling gear and selling tapes and like doing literally everything I can, making flyers for like shows back home, literally doing everything I can to like make it work. And it's just kind of like, it's that, I don't know, it's just, you got to love it, like that it's gonna suck a lot of times, but you got to really love it. And like, it's just that dedication that kind of like, drives you. Like you just want to keep doing it as much as you can because it truly, truly makes you happy. Whether you have $10 or 1,000 in your bank account, like it's worth it to me,
Well, Izzy, this has been awesome. I'm happy to have been able to talk to you today to hear about, Riley, worst behavior, and Glare. But before we sign off, is there anything else you would like to say?
No, thank you for your time, Jamie. I used to listen to the podcast all the time, like a year and a half ago, until I started touring all the fucking time, and then I could barely even listen to music outside of the van. So like, I'm very grateful to do this, and seeing my name with a bunch of other cool people that you've also talked to makes me feel very proud of myself. So I really appreciate you, David.
All right. Well, thank you for your time. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We'll be back soon. Goodbye.